All right, guys, 80 years worth of fighting knowledge in 60 minutes. We're bringing it to you tonight. It's going to hit fast. It's going to hit hard. I'm Alan Branch from Glove Up. My man is with me, David Dise. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, man, doing great. This is a great thing to do on my birthday.
Yeah, I can't believe you're taking the time out on your birthday to drop some knowledge bombs when it comes to fighting.
Looking forward to it.
All right, well, let's jump in it, guys. So if you've been on our channel before, you know what we're all about. Skills create, drills create skills. And if you have the proper mechanics, the proper foundation, you can build some pretty good fighting skills just off of the correct drills and the right mechanics. But we want to take it deeper than that. We've got several categories that we want to hit tonight, and we're going to be taking your questions as well. So if you have any, once we get started here, feel free to put them in the comments and we will answer them. So David, combined, we've got a little over 80 years of experience. Could you give everybody a quick little rundown on primarily which martial arts styles you've trained in?
So predominantly, we called it American karate because we taught a lot of kids, but it was really, kickboxing style. So I've always believed that boxers were the best punchers. The kicking style is kind of a hybrid, right? So head kicks are more like Taekwondo, leg kicks more like, Thai boxing, body kicks, kind of a combination of all of it. We take the footwork of boxing, and of course, different types of blocks. So it's really an eclectic system. And that's why, our coach, Joe Lewis, connected, I think, with you and me, and we're all singing the same song, basically.
So I got a question on there. Is this live? Yes, it is live. And feel free to put any questions in that you might have. So David, let's jump into it like this. So if we're going to build a martial arts style, and let's just take this combined knowledge and let's create the perfect fighter, the first thing we're going to have to start with is that base stance. And I kind of want you to go over real quick, and I don't think people can hear this too much. What is that 3 and 4 point stance? Let's get the position right. Let's get the feet right, and let's build the foundation from the ground up for this.
And you and I agree. That's where you start, right? Because it's all about a fighting stance. And in the fight game, if you have a good stance or you're in good position, you're well covered. So the whole gist of the thing is, if my opponent has a really good position, I've got to try to get him out of position, either with combinations, angular movement, get them turn and throw one thing, see what they're doing. And we see that most fighters do that for them. They don't understand the importance of always being in the perfect position. So through the 80 plus years we've been together or been studying, here's what I think that is. First of all, you want to have your feet under your hips if you're lateral, so you're on train tracks, right? You wouldn't want to walk on a balance beam if you had 2 beams, and you need that to move, shift your weight. So what we do is we start here, we drop the right foot back, turn the front foot in. There's a little gap or the center line. Your feet are about shoulders width apart. They can be a little bit wider than shoulders width. The problem with going too wide for kickboxing is if they're too wide, you can't pick either foot up. You have to push off to kick. If they're too wide in boxing, you can't shift your weight fast enough. So if you watch really elite boxers, they always have their feet up underneath of them. So their feet are here, about like this. Front foot's turned in. You do not want to point that front foot straight. We can go over that later. Write in if you don't understand why. I can give you 4 inarguable reasons why not to point that foot straight, okay? Rear foot on the ball of the foot, so it's athletic. Elbows into your body, because that's what protects your body. Your rear hand is up straight, right off your jaw. Try to keep that forearm straight. Front elbow in your body. Bring your front hand up so you're basically looking between your fists, not around them. We don't have an A-frame here, so your arms are parallel with your chin down. Now, I'm pretty covered up. In order to get to anything open, you'd have to come around. Circular shots take longer and they're easier to block. But you'll see, as people fight, they start squaring up and creating an A-frame, which we both talk about that. So this is why we like these positions. Again, you can have your feet a little bit outside of shoulders, but if they're too far out, you can't pick that foot up. So if you're here and I want to kick with this, I have to push off to pick it up, and you need to be able to just pick your feet up. Same thing with fast weight shifts. If they're too wide, you can't shift your weight, because as we've talked about before, and this is inarguable, the force generators are weight shift, torque, right? Mechanics and speed, right? If those four things are clean, we can teach anybody to, hit like a mule.
Well, I really love the three. If you're a fighter of any style, regardless, I like the verbiage that you say when it's inarguable. Then what we're trying to do is not do our opinion. We're trying to show what mechanics and physics are going to represent as the best possible posture that you could be in. So I'm a big fan of the 4-point and 3-point stance. Like, I think that's something everybody should really think through. I'm going to review it. I got a lot of people popping on now after you've already said it. So guys, basically what we're wanting to do, you just, and David, I apologize. You didn't get to that point yet, did you?
Yeah, so we did the elbow. There's one. There's 2, there's 3. So you're always starting with 3 points of contact, and whatever technique you throw with your hands, it ends up with 4 points. So let's take that right hand. The fist would be on the target, shoulder on my jaw, this fist here, this elbow here. So you're always going from 3 points of contact to 4. This would be on the target, jaw, elbow. And the reason you got to go to 4 points is this: the best strikers in the world land maybe 30% of their punches. So they're missing, or let's even say 35, they're missing the majority of their shots. So if you're not playing for the miss, you are tailor-made for somebody that has good movement and is a counter fighter, okay? Because you're gonna miss 2/3 of the time. So you have to play for the miss. People call it punching and covering, right? That's what it is, but it's easily explained if it's just 4 points of contact on every single shot. I can't hear him from there.
Okay, so we had a question come up, which I appreciate that question. It says, so if the lead foot is pointing at your opponent, how are you going to defend calf kicks?
Easy. So my question would be, and I wish we could see him, how do you defend it now? Because the only difference is about 3 inches. So if people turn their foot out when they're blocking kicks like that, I can just as easily do it with my front foot turned in as I can with my front foot pointed. It makes no difference whatsoever. It's just, and again, this is an opinion. This is from doing it over and over. If you watch really, really good Thai fighters, right? Top notch in the ring, not in Thailand where they're going to get booed if they move around, but they're there to just beat each other. They turn that front foot in a little bit, right? Because let me cover these things why. And this again, love the feedback. If I point my front foot at you, look at what it does to my center line. I can't point that front foot and turn in, okay? So it exposes my center line, number one. When I expose my center line, look at what's happening to my hands. So I want this as close to your face as I can get it, okay? To make it a 2-foot shot. As I open up, this hand moves farther away. This hand moves closer to you. So I've lost my reach and I've blown half my wad on that right hand. You need, Big Daddy cocked back here, as much reach as you can, and bang, hit him from there. You do not want to be here. Pointing the front foot causes that. Here's another thing it causes. If we all agree, and most, 99% of the boxing coaches in the world agree, torque is important. That starts with the heel turn, the pivot. That allows the hip to come through without any friction, so as fast as it can. And then the shoulders come through and you shift your weight. Bang. That's every shot off that front side other than a jab. If my foot is straight, that heel has to travel too far. And that's why you see people that stand like that, their hooks like arm punches, because they can't get this into it. That's number 2, right? Number 3, we're going to miss half or 2/3 of our shots. If you're humming a hard right hand and that foot is straight and you miss, there's nothing to catch you there. When that foot's turned in, you have stored energy in your hip. So if I miss, that's there to catch me. Plus, I can rip right back into a hook. There's another reason. Try to throw a fast double jab offensively, stepping in with your shots. If your foot is straight ahead, you're going to end up with heel-toe movement, okay? The heel will strike. When we're coaching somebody and we see somebody with heel-toe movement, we'll kind of grin, because all we got to do is tell our fighter, hey, the second he steps forward, fire on him. He can't hit you till that toe comes down. So that's what ends up happening. So if that's not enough reasons to break that foot in just a little bit, I don't know if there ever will be enough reasons.
Yeah, right. So I want to add a little bit to that, Dave.
Okay.
So when you say center line, so for you guys that are newer or you may not be familiar with martial arts style terminology, center line is imaginary. It's not really imaginary. It's there, but it's that line that separates the body in 2 halves. And a lot of your vital striking points are going to be located either directly on or directly beside that center line. So what he's speaking of is when you're in a side type stance, you are denying the center by turning it. So now you've got to get through my hand, my arm, my shoulder to get to my center line. So you've got to go
here or here, right?
When I rotate forward and expose it. Also, if you borrow this 3-point stance, which David, I told you, I learned that verbiage from you. Like I love it. And now I talk about it all the time. But when you borrow the 3-point stance, the left hand leads out away, elbows are tucked in. One thing that I like to emphasize is in this position, the forearm is vertical. So it's straight up and down. So this arm protects that entire side of my body. If I let this arm drip and let the forearm go horizontal, all of the targets open up. So not only are you in the 3-point stance, but you focus on keeping the forearms vertical, straight up and down, much like having a shield. So if I pick up a shield and put it in front of me, I'm going to hold the shield out in front. I'm going to deflect incoming with the shield, and then I can move the target behind the shield. And all of that works perfectly with this particular setup. And Dave, what I like is when you cover, if we're talking about creating this perfect fighter or this ultimate fighting style, you nailed the footwork, you nailed why the feet go a certain way. We've covered where the hands go. You talked about the power strikes that require torque, rotation, and weight shift. What would be the next thing you want to add? I don't think you've discussed the jab being the whip, the snake's tongue.
Well, let's talk about this for a second too. So, and depending on how you're built, some people's elbow to their wrist is long, right? So if you're short like that on mine, I have this one here, the elbow placement is important first. So if you're gonna let this hand drift a little bit, it's okay as long as you keep your chin down and you're behind that shoulder, right? So many people don't come in behind the shoulder, they come in behind their chest, right? And that's just all kind of wrong. Especially if there's somebody that knows how to fire hard and fast down the pipe or front kicks, just tailor-made for that, right? So we got our position. And guys, if you're listening at home or in the gym, the best training tool in the beginning is a mirror and a roll of tape, okay? Masking tape. You put a straight line on the ground, you run it between your legs. You stand over that piece of tape with your feet under your hips. And so it's equal, so the same amount of space. And if you just turn that front foot a little bit to the tape, drop this foot straight back, turn your shoulders, you're still on these train tracks, right? But you're just positioned now to be able to fire, but I can still shift my weight. And remember, boxing, striking with your hands is all about foot to foot. The head movement is foot to foot. Ripping the shots is foot to foot. Okay, so if you are, I call it fighting on a tightrope. If your feet are crossed or your rear foot is directly behind this foot, you're really on a balance beam. It may look like you can hit hard, but you cannot hit nearly as hard like that as you can if you're on train tracks. Does that make sense? So
yes,
then we talk about.
Go ahead and take a second to you want to fix that mic.
Yeah, man, it's wigging me
Go
out.
ahead, go ahead. So, guys, welcome. If you're joining in, we're getting lots of great comments. Bronx looks like he just joined our channel. Great to have you, man. We got some great stuff in there in the members area. We actually got a big live coming up. You can get some one-on-one directly with us coming up. Great to have you. And Morrow, glad you just found the channel, man. Thanks for jumping in and watching. We'd love to have any comments that you have. It says you're boxing in your name description, so maybe you're a coach, you got a little club. We all work together on this stuff, man. So good to have you. So Dave, on the
can I cover movement a little bit? Can I cover movement a little bit?
Absolutely, man. Go ahead.
This is where people botch it up big time, and you can see it all over the internet. And this is another thing. There are seldom times where we can say always do this or always do that or try to always do it. Punching and covering is one of those inarguable facts, right? So if people are going to argue it, all right, well, what's the flip side? Don't punch and cover, right? So here's the footwork. Whatever direction you're going to move, it doesn't matter if you're southpaw or traditional left side forward, whatever direction you're going to move. And remember now, we're starting from your perfect fighting stance. So the objective is, how do I move around and stay in that position, not get out of position, okay? If you're gonna move forward, you move your front foot first. Whatever size step that takes, the rear foot has to take the same size step. That takes a lot of practice, and you wanna play with it. Do a 3-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, 4-inch, 1-inch, 1-inch. So when you're moving forward, front foot, back foot, okay? The reason that's important is because if I move my back foot first, I'm not getting any closer to my target, okay? But once I get inside of shoulders width and inside of hips width, I have no leverage.
Hey, go ahead and back up a little bit.
And you don't have it till that next foot hits. If I step with my front foot, I'm a little wider, which you've said is okay. Now I'm back up, but never am I in a weak position, okay? So rear, you're going backwards, you move your back foot first, then the front foot. If you do the opposites, people get away with it all the time, a little shuffle. The problem is you can get caught in the middle of that and you can't deliver anything hard. And we're talking about, because there are people that are just physical guys that can do an incorrect technique and it still hurt, right? We're talking about maximizing the fighter's potential. So if we move left, lateral movement, left foot moves first, rear foot takes the same size step. If you do not take the same size step, if I move 2 inches with this foot and 3 inches here, I'm out of position. So you've got to practice it. If we move to the right, move the right foot first. That's forward, back, left, and right. It's not natural to do that. If you have a line on the ground and you're stepping all over the line, that tells you right there, you're in a weak position. So, we've been doing this for so long. A mirror and tape on the floor, understanding position is the way we start everybody. Of course, Alan, and then we go into the individual strikes. Jab first, because it's still the most dominant weapon, right? Do you agree? I mean, I know you agree.
No, of course.
So how do we do that?
Back up just a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, just so when you're moving your feet, I want to make sure that anybody watching that wants to take advantage of any of this. And
so there would be a piece of tape between my feet. So my front toe would be on it. My front heel would be on the other edge. So it's ever so slight, but that's the center line. So when you hear fighting commentators say, you needed to get his head off the center line, because when you're squared up with somebody, your center line or your gap here should be lined up with theirs. That's what you're working for. So imagine a straight line here, okay? And we'll talk about this in a little bit, because most people do not know the real difference between a straight right cross, and overhand right. So we need to cover that. But so if you move forward, whatever size step this takes the same size step, and look down and see if you've stepped all over your line, because that is not a natural way to move. You will step all over the line. You'll cross your feet. If I move to my left and I move my right foot first, hope everybody can pick out what's happening there.
Yes.
Your feet are crossed, right? I can't do anything to you with my feet are crossed. So when we're coaching fighters and we see somebody moving left or right by crossing your feet, we'll say, hey, you know, do whatever you got to do to get them to move to the right or left, and then pop them, because, you know, there's nothing somebody can do to you when their feet are crossed. So movement, you got to get in position, you got to move. Then we get into mastering each individual punch or kick.
And guys, if while you're watching, if you come up with a question, feel free to put it in the comments. We'd love to answer it. David, something really, especially if you're a fighter or a coach, which is basically going to be most of the people that are on this channel, something to note when David's in that stance. At all times, the way that you can teach this or remember it is when he's in the perfect stance, his knees are over his ankles, his hips are over his knees, and his shoulders are over his hips. By maintaining that small step, we call it the 4-inch rule. So if you drift over or up or back, it's not literally 4 inches, but it symbolizes that it's a very tiny step. When he makes those small movements, at all times, he has that correct body alignment, that athletic posture, that ability to defend. And if you look down at your feet, you can see it. It's knees over ankles, hips over knees, shoulders over hips, and you can maintain that. David, you have a big pet peeve of some of the boxing coaches online that are showing footwork drills that are not related to fighting. They're very cool and they do show great agility, but that doesn't transfer to the type of movement that you need to let me preface this, and I want you to take over. So guys, if you're watching this, here's something to understand. You can only punch from 2 different ways. You can punch from position, which means you're standing right in front of somebody. You've got a target that isn't moving. It's planted its feet. It's going to stand there and let you hit it. So you can punch from position, or you've got a target on the move and you have to punch from motion. So if you're planted and you're hitting, you've still got to be able to move around the opponent. And if you've got someone who's fleet-footed and they're going to be on the run, you've got to be able to punch while moving. That's why it's so important to get your steps down so that when you go to attack, you begin to penetrate, to make that entry movement to get close to somebody, that you are maintaining that balance, which is ankles under knees, knees under hips, hips under shoulders.
We used to call it a ready position, and I kind of liked that term because you always want to be ready. You've got to be able to move left, right, in, out, angular forward, angular leftward, angular right backward, angular left backward, and always be ready, right? Anybody can do that movement, end up with spread legs, you know, but you've got to be able to do it and be ready. And that's what separates, one of the things that separates good fighters from great fighters. People go, man, this guy's got really good balance. What's happening is their position is allowing them to be balanced, right? And so it's key. So I would never, on a new guy, we work on position. So I'll say, all right, get out of position, now get in it, because that has to be second nature. And that doesn't happen overnight. Then we teach them to move with it, right? Then we start adding strikes, and we add one at a time. So the first strike we like to add is the jab, because it's still the most dominant. And if somebody has a wicked jab, they're really hard to beat. You got to really be skilled to beat them. So now, hand speed. People talk about hand speed. Hands. Oh, he's got fast hands, right? It's really not hands. It's really elbows. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. This is moving your hands forward, okay, and backwards, right? The punch, this is physiological too. This is another thing that's inarguable because you can't redesign the body. This is kinesiology. So if I'm throwing that jab, I'm going to, the hand will come up, the elbow moves forward, and at the last second, I turn it over and I have my 4 points of contact, right? The recoil is not the hand. New coaches, I know you deal with this all the time. People will punch like that. Anytime you see somebody's hand bounce off their shoulder, you know they're retreating their hand. It's a weak move. When you push that elbow forward and turn it over, you're using your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps. If it's just hand, you're just using your triceps, okay? So you're using big muscles to take it out. It's moving straight, bang, and then you pull the elbow back. So you're using your biceps, your rear delts, and your lats. Much bigger muscle groups, much more powerful. Now, You don't want that elbow to creep out because people pick it up immediately. Alan has great drills on that, and I hope you guys watch those because it'll teach you how you're telegraphing stuff. And you've got to be able to throw something straight right down the pipe, bang, right? So if you see a car coming straight at you, and it's on a straight road, you can't tell the speed it's going at until there's a little bit of undulation. And you can go, now that thing is booking, right? Your eyes have a really tough time picking up stuff coming straight at you. What they do pick up is if you draw back, raise your elbow, tense up before you throw it. But when something's coming really straight, it's hard to deal with. So it's more about elbow speed than it is hand speed. I hope that makes sense to you. Please ask as many questions as you want. Don't get offended. If you disagree, we can talk about it. And if we haven't experienced it a lot, I'll say, I'm not sure. I think that way would be fine, you know. But there are some things because we've done it wrong a lot. And then we're fortunate enough to get with some great people all over the world. And then so we see others do it incorrectly or less effective. Let's use that term. So that jab, 3 points, 1, 2, 3, to a 4 point, back to 3 points, like a piston, like you're taking a log and jamming it into their face, not flicking it into their face. Does that make sense?
It does.
Then we step with it.
I like your verbiage. The jab is a snake's tongue. It's a flick. There are, of course, different versions of the jab. You can whip it. We have 8 of them. Yeah, you know, angular, stabbing it, drop power, slipping with it. So I'm just talking about the basic mechanics of that move right now. But there's loads of ways to throw it. And you shouldn't play with all of those until you've mastered the basic jab. And guys, if you'll, what David explained, and I'm not as smart as he is, so I might can break it down a little simpler. When he's speaking of this chop motion that's being made, that is simply tricep extension. So if you think of doing a tricep press down, you're only isolating the tricep. You can bench press far more weight than you can tricep extend. So not only by doing this are you having bad form, but when you let the way I like to teach this is very similar, of course, to David, is the hand moves as the elbow comes up. So the first movement is this. It's not this. There isn't a lean or a twist.
Yeah.
Hand and elbow, go. It rises, and then as you turn it into this other point of contact, you're involving the pec and the delts. So not only are you mechanically sharper, faster, and less telegraphed, but you're utilizing those bigger, stronger muscles when you make the punch. And then when it comes to this lat and back, I really like to have people make a big emphasis on throwing it out and then using that muscle, boom,
recoil
pull it back. And man, that makes a big difference. I felt it instantly just concentrating on that snapback. So that backs up the idea of what you said. It's not really hand speed, it's elbow speed being fired by primary major muscle groups, not just like when
and Alan, one of the things that I do for coaches listening, the fastest way to get this concept, because I can tell you what people are experiencing if somebody walks in off the street. They aren't punching correct, okay? It's going to be a hand movement, right? And so, what you do is, if you're in your fight, and I want to say something, I'll say, I hope I don't forget it, but what you do is you walk up on them and put your hand right there and say, okay, push your hand forward. And, they're going to go, right? And I'll go, no, start pushing, right? Because nobody has any power. It's just triceps. Then I'll say, make a fist. I'll put it on. I'll say, now I want you to push your elbow forward, and they'll push you backwards. And then I'll say, you tell me where the strength is in that, right? So we work on that push, and then we work on snapping that elbow back to the rib cage. So I'll put my hand there because people will inevitably thrust it, right? And that opening's there. And I'll say, I want you to smack your elbow into my hand. Bang! And then they start getting that piston motion. But to me, over 40 years doing it, that's the fastest way for people to understand that concept. Then when I'll have them do it in the air or bag, I'll take a little noodle or something. And if they're too slow, as soon as they punch, I'll pop them under their elbow. So you got to get your elbow back. So really quick, in a day or two, we can have people throwing a daggone good jab. Then we teach them to move with it. and you move when you fire it if you're moving when the initial foot hits. So if we're going forward, I tell them it's like a button on the floor. When your foot hits it, bang, it's got to go. You don't want to get there, then throw it, right? So it's like, pow, it's when that initial foot hits. If you're moving backwards, it's when the initial foot hits. Moving to the left, initial foot. Moving to the right, initial foot. That's how you move with that jab. And then, of course, we do angles and all that, but I don't teach angles till they get those 4 movements and just that punch down. Now, don't be in a hurry to race to another technique. Don't worry about somebody being bored. If you do that, what you're going to end up always having to do is introduce new stuff, and there'll be a jack of all trades and a master of zero. So I would work just position and movement a couple days, and then they come back, and when they demonstrate it flawlessly, all right, now we're going to add something else. And if people aren't patient enough to do that, they're never going to make it as a fighter, okay? Because it is a game of high repetition, and they have to be okay with just mastering stuff. And by the way, that's what makes great athletes great. It's not the 360 dunk. It's not the crazy little move you see in the ring. It's having great mechanics and being able to apply those mechanics in every scenario, right?
Yeah, and one thing we always say is that there's no such thing as an advanced technique. That's what everybody feels like they want to learn. There's only the advanced application of your basic technique. So a Roy Jones jab, a Muhammad Ali jab, is just a jab. It's just a highly refined, highly educated, well-trained jab. It's nothing advanced about it. They're just better at it than everybody else because they've mastered that jab. And the same thing applies, left hook, right hand, whatever the dominant strike is. So Dave, one thing I did want to make sure, and one guy's comment says, my punch is already faster from what I just learned from you. So
cool.
He's fast.
It does happen fast. And I think that's really because we've explained it so many times. And over the last 40 years, you see the glaze go over people's eyes and you realize, man, I've got to shorten that up, be more specific. So the way we teach, people go, gosh, that was so simple. Man, it didn't used to be like that. We've just learned to get right down to the point, and we're trying to share all of this with you guys that are fighters and coaches so you can expedite being as good as you can, and you don't have to take the lumps, right? Or practicing something, and when there's the more efficient way. I hate it when I say this isn't right, because Joe Louis and Bruce Lee, people would say that, then they would do it wrong and beat them. So it's what we're talking about is there are ways to maximize the potential of it. And yes, there's a lot of jabs, and we'll go through, we do 8 different ones. They're all effective. But so moving on, we do the jab first, then they got to move with it. So we call it defensive, and that's throwing it in place, right? Somebody's coming on you. Offensive, moving forward, laterally, and then retreating with it. Bang, and when that second foot hits you, throw your right hand, because you'd have a leverage shot. Now, I see people online or social media teaching this another way. So let me explain, when we're going backwards, why the initial foot is with the jab, okay? When you step back, you still have some strength here. When this second foot steps, you have something to shift to, okay? Because remember, if you can't shift to a solid foot, you got some weak punches, right? I see a lot of people move their foot when they're punching, and that's like fighting on ice, right? One of the feet, so from this position, if you're throwing a right hand, one foot has to bite. We call it biting, okay? Because if it wiggles, it's like fighting on ice, all right? So whatever foot you're shifting to, that foot has to bite. And after us saying this, look on social media, you'll see punching, you'll see both feet moving. If you see that, that guy has no leverage, and it breaks my heart because they want to be doing it right, but whoever's been coaching them just doesn't understand the nuances. So one foot turns, that heel turns, that shoulder turns, the weight shifts back to a bitten or a foot that's biting the floor. That also gives you the stored energy if you miss to bring you back on. Does that make sense?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and these are the guys, the way we teach this to be applied, we basically created a program called Fighters College, and it is the breakdown of every single move in a way that you can teach it or perform it, and then the drills that support it. We're putting out a ton of that information here on YouTube too, but if you want to push the pedal down, pick up this information faster, get direct access to us, we have multiple ways to do it. The most affordable we could create was here on YouTube. We created a membership option on the channel where you can dive in there. And if you do our professional level, it's like $24. You can access us once a month and we'll look at your stuff and critique you. And
it's everything we know, right? Yeah, I mean, it's literally, we have spent months and months and months doing this. And little videos, breaking it down. So it's a perfect way to say, okay, get this down, then get this down. And we're wordsmithing in a way. So take advantage of the mistakes we've made and what we've learned. We're wordsmithing in a way that I don't know a clearer way to explain it. And when we go do seminars, I mean, talking with people that have been coaching boxing and high-level boxers for a long time, go, man, the way you explain that, because we ran facilities that had 600 students, right? So you had to get right to the point. So if we're, after that jab, then what we like to do is work on just torque, because every shot other than that jab, which is a snake's tongue. Now watch this. If my left shoulder is forward, you'll see people, we've had this question, well, you don't pivot on your jab? No, the answer is heck no, okay? And here's why. We're already starting with that shoulder there. The only reason somebody would turn on a jab, okay, is to get that shoulder in place. Start with it in place. Then all you've got to do is add fast footwork, and your depth is farther through the target, and that's what makes something hard. And so when you see people doing jabs like that, that's what they're trying to do. We start here. So does that make sense? So you don't need to do that. But every other shot, other than that snake's tongue, right, has torque, weight shift, okay, before the shot. Now, and we're going to get into that, and people will go, what? But just hear me out. So the next thing I teach people, because everything other than that jab has torque, and I call them guns. You only have two guns in this game, okay? Every strike hand comes out of two guns. There's one of the guns. There's the other gun. I call it the 2-gun and 3-gun. Every shot comes out of that other than the jab. So that's what's important. Punches are just different bullets that fly out of it. Now, so here's the analogy. If you had a 50 caliber bullet, not a bucket full of them, right? And I'm throwing them at you. You may go like, right? Never go hurt them, never go do any damage. But when you fire that bullet out of something, that's when it's dangerous. So we're talking about firing. So here's what we do. I'll have people, and I learned this. This is, if you watch old film of Mike Tyson, he started all of his workouts like this because Cuss knew, by the way, he developed that style off of martial arts. I don't know, a lot of people don't know that, right? But anyway, the 2-gun, turn your heel. The reason you turn your heel first, most people don't know that there's a specific reason. That allows your hip to come through without friction. One of God's laws, or physics, is when you reduce friction between two moving parts, you automatically increase speed. That's the byproduct of decreased friction. So the heel turns so the hip can come through without friction. See, I can get my hip through, but see it bound up in my leg? That's friction. So that's the specific reason for a pivot. Then the specific reason people go, he's got to get his hip into the shot. Old karate used to get a hip into it with no shoulder turn, and there won't much there, okay? The hip comes around, and it's very important to get your hip into it, but that allows the shoulder to travel without friction. So it's a kinetic chain. You got heel, so now there's no friction here. See, I can get my shoulder there without getting my hip there, but you see it's bound up. So it's heel, hip, shoulder. My hands change. Now I'm going to throw whatever technique from there. There's the straight right. It would go right down the center line. Bang. And it's just a jab on the end of a torque and a weight shift. So I said, we turn heel, hip, shoulder, and I drop my weight to my front foot a little bit. It's on my left heel, but it's nothing drastic, right? Heel, hip, shoulder, weight shift. Now, bang. That's just the bullet. That'd be the straight right. A right cross is called a cross because it goes across the center line, i.e. right cross, okay? So if I were firing a jab and somebody's slipping to the outside of it, my straight right would miss them, correct? Yes. So if I see him doing it, bang, I throw it across and it's gonna tag him. That's the right cross. It goes across the center line. The overhand right is not that, okay? We have some film that we'll be doing the next one to show you just beautiful overhand rights. All it is, it's the same gun, but you raise your elbow up on the snap and it takes it over your opponent's hand, i.e. overhand right. That's where these terms came from. But you know, people do like that now. You don't see really seasoned boxers getting hit with that. I mean, it just takes too long. You see it coming a mile away, and if it does, it's luck, right? So the two gun, heel, hip, shoulder. That's the fastest way to get around, okay? Because you've eliminated the friction. Baby weight shift, so you're hitting them with your body weight and rotational force. Then the last part of it is speed. All right, so you have rotational force, weight shift, and speed. Now watch this. When you let it go is critical. This is no different. Again, this is kinesiology. This is how the human body works in performance. If you've all played baseball, you're hitting a baseball, you drive your hips, this elbow stays connected. You don't swing at it like that, right? You drive it, rip it, throw the bat forward, and then let it rip. You stay connected as long as you can to your power. Same way you golf swing, you stay connected. So when you hear us say the term, the guy is disconnecting or is not connected, it means he's picking his elbow off of his power source, the gun, too soon. And here's a problem with it. So watch this. I think we can all agree that a right hand, straight right hand, is torque, weight shift, and fire. All right, so watch. If I fire and then do that stuff, nothing would happen, right? If I fire as I torque, so I'm going to be taking my elbow off my power source, okay? You lose a lot of reach. If you wait till the last second, bang, and then do it, you're punching way far through their chin. Now at full speed, the average person can't tell the difference, okay? But there's a huge difference in impact. So just remember, don't disconnect. Watch amateur fighters, watch some of the MMA people are new because they have so much stuff to learn. We have great respect for those guys, by the way. What you'll see is a lot of rib cage when they're fighting. The more rib cage you see when people are fighting, the lower the level of their boxing is. If you look at high-level boxers, you don't see their rib cage hardly at all, right? Pow, pow, right? Pow, pow, right? They stay connected to that power source. I hope that wasn't too long-winded.
No way, man. Good. And you answered a couple of questions that had been asked, so you knocked those down. So the quick recap would be the jab we treat as a snake's tongue. Your other power shots require torque, rotation, or weight shift. And that is sort of your framework, kind of your blueprint for how to punch. So if you combine your basics, so guys, what we're doing, if you're joining us late, we started this with, hey, if we're going to put all this together and create the ultimate fighting style or fighter in 60 minutes, what would we do? And again, David has covered the stance.
So we would do one more thing, Alan. We would do that 3-gun. So, because that would be, so this 2-gun, that's your uppercut, stay connected. Bang, 4 points of contact, right? That's your straight right hand, stay connected. That's your right cross. That's your overhand right? That's your body shot. So that's all off the 2-gun. It's even your elbows. So the 3-gun it's a shorter movement when it's coming from the front side, heel, hip, shoulder to the line that's on the ground. That's it. Bang. The power in all of those front-sided strikes is in a fast torque, boom, and weight shift. That's where the power is not here. A hook punch is really a position more than it is a punch. And this is what I mean by it. So you would heel, hip, shoulder, and then raise your elbow, right? There's your 4 points of contact. So it comes across At impact, that elbow's got to be on a straight line, whether your fist is here, that's a headshot. Otherwise, it's going to get hung up on their arm. And you can do it at the last second. That liver shot, you're here, same gun, heel, hip, shoulders, bang, that elbow movement, uppercut, elbow movement, right? Bang, bang, bang. Notice the heel. There's the power. So many people think it's in the arm and it's not. So then we would move on.
So guys, can you tell David likes teaching this stuff?
Sorry.
Yeah, I enjoy listening to him. Same. I'm always trying to learn something, no matter who I'm talking to. But with David, it's like, taking it with a fire hose. Make sure you comment down below, guys, if you have feedback on it. If you can tell David likes teaching this kind of stuff, you can comment down there too. It's obvious that you do, Dave. So again, what we're doing, if you're joining us late, is we're building this foundation. Could we put, our 80 years worth into one particular fighter? What would it be? David's covered the footwork. You can go back and catch that at the beginning of the video. He covered the footwork, the basic stance,
position, movement.
Yeah, we finished going over the punches. We've had David, two people viewing have joined the program on the channel while we've been talking.
Nice.
So looking forward to working with you guys behind the scenes in the members area. So glad you're here now, but really looking forward to having you in there. I think we'll
critique your stuff, right? Send us a video. We'll look at it. We can talk over the phone, or we can type it and say, okay, great job. Because this is another thing we teach. So there's a difference between head knowledge and body knowledge. If we all went to take a golf lesson, after the golf lesson, I hit some golf balls 2 days in a row, then went back for the next lesson. Alan didn't hit any golf balls. We have the same amount of head knowledge, right? We were taught the same stuff. Who's going to be hitting the ball better? So none of this works if you're not. That's why they call boxing and kickboxing a lonely sport. It's a lot of time trying to master the stuff. And we're going to critique that. So, practice it. Say, hey, I think I've got this part of it down. Send a little video. What do you think? We may go, man, everything is great or perfect except for these two things. You go back to the drawing board and then we'll do more. We want to do this. We spent a lifetime doing this, and it breaks my heart when you see people trying to get good at it, but they're not being taught a real efficient way, and they have to do all this travel and take these shots that they don't need to take. We can get somebody really good in 6 months. I mean, that may sound like a long time, but it's not a long time.
Well, I have a question. Why do I have to be the one that didn't hit the golf balls?
I didn't practice and you did.
All right, guys. So when we get to this point, basically you've got a foundation, and here's sort of our the educated way of teaching this, right? So if you didn't have a coach or don't have a coach that was able to create a blueprint, a foundation for the techniques that then it's going to be kind of watered down as you're in the development process. So we need to know not just the how, but the why. And that's what David is so good at, is making you understand why it's taught a certain way. So then if you're training with us, you're training yourself just by knowledge you're trying to pick up. Or if you're teaching or want to teach, you will be head and shoulders above everybody else that coaches around you, because of a superior understanding of not just the how, but the why. And David, I want to keep rolling because we said an hour. We're already 50 minutes in, so we got to keep going. Yeah, we might have to keep rolling, guys. If you want us to stay on, just comment, hang with us, and we'll hang with you for a little while longer. So David,
let me make one comment on that. Understanding the why. I had ADHD bad my whole life, and I had a hard time with people telling me, you got to do this just because you got to do it. I'd go, I wouldn't be interested. I'd just go, why? There's not another way? And so when I became a teacher, I always looked at it like, I'm going to explain the why, because then it'll stick with people better, right? And the why may be physiological. It may be, technique, a combination of both. And some stuff just doesn't work in the ring. We talked the other night, some of the stuff that are cool drills and martial arts is not applicable. I'm sorry, it's just not against a good fighter. I mean, a lot of people can beat up a drunk, right? Or somebody that's swat and off balance, but we're always relating to, you're coming up against somebody that knows what they're doing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So you sort of prepare for the worst possible scenario. And the way you do that is by having your foundation right. And David, we talk about this a lot. We get a lot of guys on the channel will teach a certain thing, or we'll show footage of Joe Louis teaching a certain thing. It'll either be taken out of context or it's placed into this category. Well, that's not how Canelo does it. You know, that's not how Tyson. And what you guys have to understand is, and David, I know you're itching to answer this, and I'll let you have it. But these guys, the foundation that they have is superior. And then things break apart because of style. David, go ahead.
Yeah, so people comment on that all the time, but I think our next time we get together, we're going to answer all those with video footage showing that that's not the way it is, right? So when we're talking about punching and covering, in the heat of combat, I don't care if you're playing basketball, soccer, lacrosse, boxing, you're going to lose a little bit of your mechanics with reaction time, speed, somebody interrupting something, right? So instead of firing that uppercut from here, it may drop a little bit, right? But if you're perfect, practice makes perfect. Practice makes permanent. Whatever you practice in high repetition, that's the way your body's going to do it. You don't get a choice to tell it what to do at full speed. So you have to practice perfect. Then at full speed, you'll lose some, right? You may, usually do. But then you're dropping down to being 90% perfect versus starting bad and going to 20%. So it's really important to practice as tight as you can. And I just never liked instructors that didn't allow you to ask questions and couldn't explain in detail. And this is just how I learned the best, exactly why we do that, right? And if we can't tell you that, I'll go, you know what, I don't know, but there isn't much we're going to share with you that hasn't just gone under heavy microscopes in, you know, physiology, kinesiology, technique, application, world champs to amateurs. I mean, we've put it under a lot of microscopes. So, but anyway, we're excited about just sharing this and can't wait for people to start sending us how they're looking, and because you'll be amazed at how fast you can get pretty good.
For sure. The term that we use for that, if you're a coach and you're trying to explain this and you're hearing us and you're trying to figure out how to put it together, I like to use the term settle. So if you start with your hands in a certain position, like up, when you get in battle, they tend, or tired, or you get popped, the hands tend to settle. So they'll drop a little bit. And some of the tightness of that punch, it'll settle. Like you may loop it a little. But your original foundation was created as tight, compact, with the maximum amount of force that you can generate. And then it allows room for that chaotic realm of when fights are actually happening, when things begin to come unglued, you have a better chance because your posture was created from a solid blueprint on day one. And hopefully,
exactly,
that makes sense.
No way it can be said better than that, because then your 80% is still phenomenal. You're still jacking people, right? And if you look at, and please send us a clip and say, what about this? Because you'll see like this Czech hook people are doing, and it's really not Czech. It's called Czech, like Czechoslovakia, right? It's European hook. There, what you see online is not how they teach it. Watch Bivol do it. He goes through and then around. He's not spinning out of his power. Now people are throwing it as a part of defense, and it does work. But you're not in a position to really capitalize on it. We're going to go through all of this stuff, right? You'll see people teaching to cut an angle, this right angle, which is the fastest, easiest, in the way every great coach I've ever talked to teaches it, is you shoot the right foot through. So if you're here on me, I shoot the right foot through and drag that foot into position. Center line is here, I'm positioned. We're seeing coaches now, because of social media, stepping across with the front foot. So now you're right here, I can't do anything, and then bringing this foot around. It's slow, and I've never seen anybody pull that off on another great fighter. Now you can see mismatches, but you can see mismatches in any sport, and you know, they're hamming it up, right? But all that stuff flies out the window when the competition is equal or better. Okay, you won't see all of that trickiness. And if you do, that and $1 will get you a cup of coffee. It's never going to beat anybody good.
Well, there's something else to consider. We are primarily strikers, but I've got a background in Sambo. I've competed in Sambo against BJJ players. I've trained in American Jiu-Jitsu. It's not the same as BJJ, but we understand grappling. Did some shoot fighting, some sport jiu-jitsu back in the day, and we are aware of the positions that strikers put themselves in. You might get away with it if somebody's just boxing, but if you've got a good grappler and you go into that stance, you're gone. If you've got a good leg kicker and you go into that crossover stance, you're gone. So you can't think everything based on, unless you're never worried about anything other than boxing, which would be sort of foolish because people grab in street fights, they get taken down. I fought in about 40 different tough man and bad man contests, and that was supposed to be striking. We wore gloves. You kicked with your shoes on or barefooted. There were no pads, and that's how we fought. And I have matches where I have it on tape. You're supposed to be standing up, and the other person is a grappler, and they dive at your legs, and things roll to the ground. And you have to be aware of what other people can do before you start trying some of these flashy, fancy moves. And one other thing, David, for example, in the chest hook, you better have mastered your basic hook before you start trying to get into any of this fancier stuff. And maybe that's a bigger problem. If there's no such thing as an advanced technique, there's only the advanced application of something basic, then you would not want to attempt any deviation or variation from the fundamentals until you have, it's hard to master anything, but you're going to want to be really solid with your techniques before you start following some of these guys that are teaching techniques that are, what's a good word?
I've never heard of an advanced technique. I still don't even know what that is, but there is a sequence in which you must learn them so that you can maximize them. For example, let's take that left hook. Well, if you don't learn torque, weight shift here, get the shoulder there, I don't care what you're trying to do. But there's nothing real advanced about that. There's nothing real advanced, a shovel hook or a liver shot. It's different, a little more verbiage, but nothing that we teach would be considered advanced. But I can't teach you to throw a shovel hook until you've learned to shift your weight, because it just comes out of a different position, right? So the sequence, the way in which we've broken them down, if somebody had a gun to my head and said, okay, you have to get this guy as good as you can and as fast as you can. And Alan and I talked about that earlier today. This is the way we're delivering it to you. And if you're an MMA school, a karate school, kickboxing, boxing, trust me, you're going to hear some stuff you've never heard before. Some really cool nuggets. And the way we always tried, if I could buy a system or go to a seminar or travel, which is what most of my vacations were, going to great coaches and hanging with them for a week and asking questions, man, if I could pick up one thing, it was like a home run, right? I promise you, okay? You will pick up way more than one thing. And it's really interesting to talk about MMA. So a facility that I'm the striking coach at, they are a 10th Planet, MMA school, which is Eddie Bravo. And one of the top instructors in California has moved down here and he's doing it. So I ran all of our positions through him because, that's the no-gi. They're pretty dominant. He was like, man, I wouldn't even know what to tell you to do it any better. And I said, so what about when people are saying this, right? Because I don't pretend to know all of that. I surround myself, and we do, the best guy that does this, and I'm going to ask him those questions. But that foot turned in, he said, nah, man, I don't ever want that foot straight and people going at anybody like that. So we've run these things through a lot of filters. Not saying we know it all, but we do know quite a bit and have taught it. So I'm just excited that people are interested, and I can't wait to start showing their videos when they're clean and go, okay, he's 90 days in, and it'll look better than anybody that you see on social media if you follow this path. I promise you.
So we're getting a lot of great feedback, and we do appreciate that, guys. And if you're just jumping on, listening in, basically what we were attempting to do was build the ultimate fighter or that style in an hour. We're not going to make it, but we are going to keep going because we got a little bit more to cover. We've been over the foundation, the footwork, the proper stance, the mechanics, the not just the how, but the why, the basic punches. We'll get into kicks on another day. We've already got our feet lined up. But David, I think there's something else. So if you're looking at what makes, if we have two different fighters and both of them learn this style, okay, so both of them have learned a oh yeah, I see your question there. I'll get to that in just a minute.
Let's say they both just came up at the same time in this style, right? So they have equal knowledge.
Right. So at that point, and guys, this is real important if you're a coach or if you're a fighter to understand what I'm about to say, because it's probably never been explained to you like this. Something that you attain from training in the right way in boxing and martial arts, during the training process, you develop what we call attributes. The attributes that you develop are things like rhythm, speed, power, reaction time,
distance,
reflexes, distance. You learn these things. They're physical attributes. So as the body develops, your ability to execute the movements that you know improves. So if you both came up in the same system, there's going to be a few things that are coming to play. It's always culture or coaching. So it's how you came up or who took to the coaching the best. But you've also got physical attributes going in. Have you lifted weights? Are you getting enough protein? Do you take creatine? Are you on a good diet? Have you stayed in shape? Are you working on your body outside of learning?
Are you sleeping or partying?
Right. Are you training your body to back up the techniques that you know? So when you look at a professional high-level athlete that has mastered a fighting system like this, the next thing you're going to look at is conditioning overall. The better conditioned fighter with the higher attributes is going to have the advantage. The next thing that gives you an advantage, and this is what separates great fighters better fighters from great fighters, is the ability to put their combinations together. And that is another huge part of this program. We created this thing called flow. And what I want to do, Dave, I'm going to address sort of the old school method just a second on how to punch. And if you would, Dave, can you move over to your right? Move over to your right a little bit, because the logo on our screen is on your head, and I want you to move over a little so we can
back
see.
Up.
No, move over to your right.
Here.
Yeah. Now you're back in the screen. I didn't want your head to be covered up. So,
it was probably a better looking shot.
Hey, look, and guys, if you're watching this, it's David's birthday today. He's doing a live for us on his birthday, so make sure you say happy birthday.
Hey, Alan, can I add one thing to that? So
yeah.
Working with Tiger Woods, right, and flexibility and all that, and Butch Harmon was his coach, and worked with different athletes. There's one thing that's really hard to measure, and it's your ticker, right? So the amount of work. But mechanics and clean stuff ultimately will beat that person, okay? Ultimately, I said, not immediately. So the Mike Tysons of the world, right? The Alis, the Sugar Ray Leonard, the Rocky Marsh, all that. So they were clean mechanics, and then the work ethic. They outworked everybody. Like Butch said, what makes Tiger Tiger is he's the first person there and the last person to leave every single day. Then he goes and does his conditioning, right? It's that mindset that rarely do you have two people at that mindset. One person is going to be more dominant. Then we deal with size, right? Two people go through the same thing. What if one guy's 6'2" and the other guy's 5'10"? Well, we'll teach that. And these attributes we do teach you, but they're only really developed doing these drills. Like we'll teach you how to control distance. We'll teach you all the blocks. We'll teach you the right way to move your head. We'll teach you counters and combinations. We'll teach you setups. All that stuff is covered, but you gotta master those basics and use it like building blocks, or you have a weak foundation. It doesn't matter how cool your house is, right? If it's built on a popsicle stick, that's as strong as it is, right? Because it's like a chain, you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
And if the saying that fatigue makes cowards of men, Tough Man Contest was really a place to see that, because you would have some really aggressive individuals who really want to fight for about 40 seconds. So my strategy became, because this is, you know, I was 26, 30 at the time, and if I win, I make 500 to $1,000, and that was a lot of money because I'm almost 60 now. And I would just dance and block and stay away for about 40 seconds. And then the guy who came out swinging stops and goes, and then it was my turn. You know, he's out of gas. So he didn't have the conditioning to back up all of that aggression. So it's very, very important to attain that, guys. And Dave, the next thing.
How did Rocky Marciano, 185 pounds, right? And back then, fighters were in shape. People look at Jersey Joe Walcott, may have been like 202, 205, ripped, had all the moves. How did this guy, who was really a light heavyweight, smash those people? Well, ask them. So he is considered the most conditioned fighter ever. He would hit as hard as he could every punch, every second, for 3 minutes, for 15 rounds. He would hospitalize people, and they'd have broken blood vessels in their arms. And it was his conditioning, because he was a little guy, right? And hit like a ton of bricks, but you know, he could take a shot too, but he was just in that kind of shape. So that kind of shape is attainable, right? To where you can just go after it. But still got to have those mechanics, man, because you can take an aggressive guy or an athlete with really clean mechanics and beat the brakes off of them.
Well, and if you're, you know, something to be considered, as important as that is, on the flip side of it, guys, if you're an older fighter or you're a martial artist and you're over 40 and you've just got to be smart with your training, you can still train hard. I train every day. You can still train hard, but you want to be smart and do things that are going to be productive and not just wear your joints down. But we'll get into that later when we start talking conditioning. Dave,
we have people. I just started a guy last week. He's 65, okay? And he's done different sports, smart guy's an attorney. He said, man, I've always really liked this. And they've tried, like, you know, I'm not going to say anything, you know, like boxer size kind of classes, right? And he said, I didn't want that. So I said, listen, I'm going to teach you and train you just like you wanted to be a professional fighter, because it's fun learning how to do it. He can't go work with a black eye or whatever. So he's learning everything there is. And later we'll do some drills that have contact, because again, you can't really get it down without some contact. But there's a lot of people do it. And listen, it works your anaerobic capacity, right? It works your aerobic capacity. It works your balance, your reaction time. Your friend, the neurosurgeon, it actually rewires your brain, right? The reaction times. There's so many benefits. Everybody at any age should do this. And really, the confidence you get from really having an idea of how to generate force is great.
And if you don't think that you have a definitive advantage in a face-to-face situation, and you have the ability to release a good, straight, powerful punch or a good hard jab to the face, followed by a good hard right hand, doesn't give you an advantage in a street fight, you're mistaken, because there's no question that understanding those mechanics, being able to put some accurate punches together with speed and power gives you an edge in a street situation. And that brings me to one of the questions, and I did want to get into combinations a little bit, but man, Dave, there's so much we want to talk about. One of the questions is, talk about height and weight in street fighting with equal fighting skill. So the exact question is
accuracy.
Talk about height and weight in street fighting with fighting skills being equal. So this is tricky, because rarely do I believe fighting skills are equal. The better trained man is going to win. The chances, the odds. Go ahead. I'll let you take it.
So I would say, the first thing is who lands the first one, right?
Right.
There's a reason sucker punching is effective. And any boxing coach worth their salt, they'll tell you the shot that is really effective is the one they don't see coming. So, but if they had equal skill, like there was no drawback, and here's another thing, once you learn how to strike and you work the basic blocks, and you know you're not going to get hit with some goofy punch, the confidence that that gives you, and it's really easy, and you can see if you join or you start following these, it's really easy to take loopy hard shots away from somebody. Extremely easy, okay? Most people don't know how to throw good straight shots. They're faster, they're harder to see coming, and they're really effective. So height, weight, let's take that. I would say accuracy is the equalizer, because if you graze somebody's hand and it hits, totally different than bang, right on the button, right? Or right on the button, or throat, or eyes, you know. So accuracy. And then we had talked earlier, I think my favorite 3-punch combination in the ring and on the street is 3 straight shots. 1, there's a power shot, there's a power shot because the turn, 1, 2, 1, or 2, 1, 2. You don't create a lot of openings. You're not going to get hit in the middle of it. And that's the fastest way. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So height, they're going to have more reach. If he's accurate, the shorter guy, if they're about the same weight, even if the shorter guy's a little stockier, if you're putting that thing right on the button, I would take the taller guy all day long if the skills were even.
Well, I think there's a couple things to think about. So obviously, the size does matter, but if you have the time to square off in a street fight, then you should just run the other way. If you've got the distance, if you're out in a street, literally the street or a parking lot, and you've got the distance or the space to square up, you need to just get, what are we doing? Like, just turn around and run off. I mean, you don't need to do this. When you're pinned against the wall or you're sucker punched or something catches you didn't see coming, that's different. You're put in the heat of battle instantly. But if there's room to get away, obviously you should have just left. Like, we're not going to box in the street. Now, once punches begin to fly, the distance is closed rather quickly, regardless of if the little guy shoots after the big guy or the big guy throws a long bomb. The biggest guy that I fought was 6'7" and weighed 270. And I literally had to hold my hands like this to keep from getting hit with a punch that came down. All I could do was weave in, get close, and start throwing bombs. I mean, the distance will be smothered for you. Once it's smothered, now we're just both inside in the pocket and we're working on torque, rotation, and we're shooting these short little tight shots. And if you learned them right, then you're going to be fine in there. And then,
also too, Alan, I was in this conversation yesterday. People always talk about the street and this and that. So, we're talking about being great in a sport that will help you in that scenario, striking, kicking, moving, getting out of there, right? But, and there's no Marcus of Queenberry rule. So I taught ATF agents in Virginia and FBI and, Marines and, just you name it. So, we talk about street stuff and combat. The first thing their rule is never get on the ground because you're dead, right? So in a real street dangerous situation, you get on the ground, there's no rules. It's not like when people were in grade school and you're cheering your buddy on. We're talking about adults. Somebody's going to kick you in the head, hit you with a stick, right? So when we talk about street fighting, I really don't like that topic, not because I don't know how to talk it, because there's a couple of killer strikes. A tie kick to somebody's femoral nerve, right? Talking about an equalizer, So there are strikes that really work, but I just, the whole street fighting thing, because UFC, none of that is a street fight.
And guys, make a note. I did, Dave, you haven't seen this video yet. I shot a video yesterday. I'll be airing it tomorrow, and it's how to survive the first 2 seconds of a street fight. Because if you can't survive that first 2 seconds, it doesn't matter which martial art if you get caught, boom, and you're unconscious, you can be a BJJ black belt or a world champion kickboxer. You don't do that stuff unconscious. So we go over some pretty interesting stuff on how to survive that first 2 seconds. And Dave, I got this question, and I can take this one and you can give your feedback, but it's, Coach, do you believe slow shadow boxing is inferior to full speed shadowboxing? And I'll give my answer, Dave, and then you can give yours. So I believe you should go slow until you have your form down. And the second you have it down, then you have to do things at game speed, because it's easy to just walk through these things. But when you start applying real motion, or you're simulating that things are coming back at you, you've got to do that in real time at real speed. But don't do that until you've got your basics. So limit your shadowboxing to what you understand how to do correctly, and then build off of that. That would be my answer. What do you think, Dave?
Yep. Speed is the easiest thing in the world to teach. So I tell people this all the time. Look, I can just say, okay, now go faster, right? Because speed builds speed. You only build speed by trying to go faster. But your brain cannot learn a physical technique at full speed. It's impossible. And this is not my opinion. This is neurological. So what you do is you learn and you perfect the mechanics slowly, and through repetition, your body's going to want to. Rarely, Alan, I'll bet you, I tell people, I may have had to tell people to speed up, 10 times, but slow down, I've said it 10 million times, right? Because what happens is, and you can watch people shadow boxing when they're getting interviewed, they start doing stuff like this. They block that shoulder. Well, guess what? Your body now doesn't know how to throw that right hand if you do that too much. So never let speed hurt your mechanics. So the answer is you learn it slow. Every day that I train, I start slow. I start with just torque, just making sure that my brain knows when I throw this right hand, that's how I throw it. This is how I throw it. So I start slow. Now I'm 63 today, so I have to do that, you warm up a little bit. But I'm constantly trying to teach this, muscle memory how to do it. So that was a great question. But the answer is, you hit the nail on the head, Alan. Learn it slow. And now if you don't know the whys, you don't even know what you're looking for, right? But I'll give you an example. We talked about those 4 points of contact. So if I were working a left, right, hook, uppercut, here's how I would do it. Bang, making sure I have everything. Bang, 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 bang. And I would look in the mirror, and I'd make sure if I wanted to pick up my speed that I still saw those mechanics in that, bang, 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 right? So that's how you do it. And there is no other way. I promise you, I welcome any challenging, and I can send you the research. You cannot learn a complicated physical technique at full speed.
Good answer. So another question, what should you teach a 14-year-old first, or the most of, punches or defense? My answer would be, you want to start with the foundation. So you teach the stance and the footwork and get the balance down. And once you have balance, then I would introduce the striking. So honestly, I would teach it exactly the way that we do it in our program.
What we're offering. The next step was blocking, right? So you at least need to know how to block some straight shots to the inside, cover up on those loopy shots, just those 4 blocks. Never block with your hands. Body shots are blocked by your elbows. Listen, fist to elbow, elbow wins. Foot to elbow, elbow wins. Knee to elbow, elbow wins. Shin to elbow, elbow wins. There are people that, like razor blades, they try to catch your stuff with the elbow. So you don't drop your hands. You learn how to take circular shots, learn how to deal with straight shots. We teach them how to block them. Then we learn how to make them miss, because there's nothing better than making somebody miss, because they'll have a great big opening usually, right?
Next one, and I like all the engagement, but one question is, how do you both feel about the choke? So I've actually applied the choke in a street situation. I was working in a furniture store, and 2 guys jumped the owner of the store, and I had to run through the store, and there were 2 guys on top of him, and I slipped one of the guys into a rear cross choke, pulled him back, and put him out. So I've actually done it for real. I've also, I was trying to think of this the other day just for this video. In the situations that I've been in, what was primarily used? Most of the time it was punches. I have mounted somebody in a street fight, and before there was such a thing as ground and pound, I have done that, but I have applied the choke, and I teach the choke. The problem is, and this one comment is, how do we feel about the choke? And then it says the bigger guys.
I think they're incredible. I hate being choked. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. But the comment is, you bigger guys need to master choking your opponent. It'll be over. So a couple things on that. First of all, in a face-to-face situation, how did you get behind me? If I've got good balance, and you have to cut through all of this to put your hands on me. So something's went really wrong if you're able to take my back. So how'd you get back there unless you snuck up on me? Is it effective? Absolutely. Would I do it? Yes, I have done it. Do we practice the defense? Absolutely, I will. And we go with for my defense on that, we'll teach our people to immediately shrug and tuck, and they'll shrug and tuck, and then we'll work on our escape, which it's kind of hard to show it right here. But we feel, obviously, it's exceptionally effective. But I want you to think about martial artists in particular are the worst in the world at putting themselves in these ridiculously bad predicaments. So I'm going to get down and I'm going to let somebody come up behind me, secure a choke, and they're going to say, okay, how do you get out of this? If it's a good grappler, you don't get out of that. You don't escape that. It's very difficult. The way you escape is don't let them set something like on you the same way you don't get knocked out with a punch. You don't let it land flush. You catch it, you roll with it, you try to get under it, you try to slip it, it glances. You don't get hit full power. So big fan of all grappling, but for the street, you heard what David said is taught universally, don't get on the ground. And if there's two of you, in my situation, it was 2-on-2. It was 2-on-1 until I got there, and then it was 2-on-2. So I choke him and not have to worry about the other guy. But if David and I were there and you grab David in a choke, I'm coming after you because there's two of us. So it's just something to consider when you're thinking about the choke is what is the situation? What's the scenario? But David, to me, obviously brutal effective. I love it, and I've had to use it.
Man, and we talked about this, Alan. So we're a fan of all ranges, and this is what people really need to understand. You have a kicking range, your legs are longest, right? Then you step in a little closer and you can punch and kick. You get a little closer, now you can punch, elbow, knee, and kick, right? Then you get a little closer and you're grabbing, and then it goes to the ground. So all these different ranges. So the street fighting question is crazy. Chokes, they work. Yeah, man, listen, if somebody's great in grappling, they'll wrap you up so fast, it's ridiculous. So don't think, people go, well, I'll bite them, I'll poke them in the eye. Well, they can bite and poke you in the eye. So that's baloney, right? So I think you need to have an understanding of each of them. And I think you need to take the street fighting thing out. Unless you are, living in a really dangerous neighborhood, you walk around by yourself, right? But be realistic. What we're interested in doing is teaching people how to punch, kick, move, block, control distance. And, a guy that loves the ground is going to try to take you to the ground. So what's he going to do? If he throws some lame stuff first, you recognize those patterns, pow, you'll catch it or you'll see it. He's not going to. If he's diving at your feet, well, we work a lot of those drills where people are trying to close distance, and you've got to maintain that distance. How does a striker like a Poirier, let's say, or Pereira, how does that guy dominate when he does it on his feet? Notice the distance he fights at. He's long, he stays upright, and he's landing those size, big old jackhammers before somebody can grab him, right? So that does work. I don't know what the dominant style is. I think it depends on the situation. But remember, there's going to be situations where you can't move, right? A crowded place. Well, a crowded place, when stuff ends up on the ground, that's when people's faces get stomped, beer bottles. So it's crazy to even talk about that too much, I think.
And I agree, but I hate to also leave it dangling. So I wanted to at least put some feedback on it. So now the next one, and this, I like this question, Dave. When building a boxing combination, should we be throwing left, right, or is it okay to double up? And what do we teach? So combinations are kind of my thing. And I'll read it again, Dave, so you understand. He said, should we always be throwing left, right, or is it okay to double up on a left or a right? So the short answer is absolutely you can double up for sure. In the beginning of a combination phase, and guys, as part of our program, if you're interested in the members area, of the channel, we've got the full version of this in our pro membership. It's called Flow. There's 30 base combinations, and that evolves into hundreds of others, enough to keep you busy for a very long time. But your starting position for me on combos is once you have the mechanics on of what David has just gone over. So as soon as you have the mechanics, you begin by putting it into the 1-2. Then it goes to like a 1-2-1, and you learn to feel what it's like for your weight to shift as you make contact. Then you start to mix head movement or defenses into the combinations. Then you can start something like that liver shot left hook, or right to the body, right uppercut, and
whatever, right?
Yeah, mixing it up.
Let me say one thing, Alan, on that. So let's talk about what is a combination, right? And how to put combinations of your own together. What are the most effective? This, again, is not our opinion, it's fact. So I liken it like this. If you had a bucket of rocks and you were trying to hit a pole, right? You grab one rock at a time and throw it, your odds never change. You may never land it. That's what it's like fighting somebody that really knows what they're doing. The first shot rarely lands, okay? But I didn't say you couldn't grab a handful of those rocks. I just said hit that pole. So I'd grab 3 or 4 of those suckers and whip it, and one would land. So that's the concept of a combination. The best combinations ultimately change level and direction. So, straight up high, straight, up. So you had different levels and finish with a different direction, because the objective is getting your opponent to move around and create openings. Then you got to have the combinations need to be leveraged. Like you don't throw 2 right hands. I didn't say you can't do it, but that, you would want to have leveraged weight shifted shots so you can flow with it. So you need to change level, direction. So we have shots that go up, straight, around, angular, around low, over the top, mix up those directions. But you are wasting time if you start doing that stuff first. I'm telling you, if we were going to go play basketball, would I teach you to dribble? And they'd say, okay, let's play, right? You don't know how to shoot. You don't know how to pass. You don't know the rules. So I can't stress it enough. Develop these basics. And guess what, guys? That's what really wins anyway. The best fighters in the world are the people that have incredible basics and know different ways to apply them.
And when it comes to the combinations, if you have trouble putting those together or understanding, that's the first time I've ever heard you say that. That was good stuff, Dave. So if you have trouble understanding it, that's what our series is. So basically,
man, after they look at your stuff, they won't. But that also will give them a foundation to go, oh gosh, instead of, coming over, I could come up on that because it's weight shifted. So what you have to offer, and I'll tell people it's the best I've ever seen, and I've been around some decent, people that knew what they were doing. His combination series, whether you're a pro fighter, doing it for conditioning or everything in between, the best I've ever seen, and the easiest to learn, and it builds off of it. So our whole system is a building block. If your goal is to be good, we're going to show you how to do that. Just follow the path. Everything you've ever seen, read, or heard about is in there. From head movements, counters, rolling with stuff, moving backwards with stuff, forward with stuff, feinting with stuff, how to set certain techniques up, and not just hands, but elbows, knees, and feet too, because this is all striking. We probably won't cover any headbutting because I don't think that's legal in anything anymore. But everything short, everything just short of that, right?
Right. And thank you for the compliment on that. The Flow series is the thing that I created by Joe Lewis's request. One of the last things that he asked me to do. And David, I don't know if I told you this, but I actually found this on video. I was watching a seminar and I found him saying, look, I need you to create some of these drills. I just don't have time. I can't create all of this. I need you to do it. And after that is when we began putting this series together. And it was designed because he said what separates the best fighters from the rest is their ability to link combinations together. And that wasn't just hands and feet, but it was hands with head movement and footwork defense, offense, all integrated. And that's what we did. And guys, we'd love to have you in there if you're interested in that. But I want to give you a thought as we're about to wrap this up. Something I want you to consider when it comes to your shadow boxing or to your fighting is the thing to focus on once you begin shadow boxing or hitting a bag. So the first thing you're going to do is you have to get close enough to the target, right? So you have to make some sort of entry to get close to your target. So then you're going to fire whatever that is. So if you're starting with David's favorite combo, like a 1-2-1, and you fire your combo, then the next thing you want to do is cover, make sure you're on a good guard, and then you're going to maneuver either by moving your head or your feet. So I want you to remember the 3 words: fire, cover, and maneuver. So you fire it.
Hands, feet, and head, right?
Start moving, hands, feet, hands. And that's the second rule. So fire, cover, move. And the other one is hands, head, or feet. So if your hands are moving or your head is moving or your feet are moving, then your shadow boxing, your bag work, your sparring is never stagnant. You're not just standing still. In your head, you're taught either my hands are moving or my head is moving.
Or maybe the blocks that they're moving with, the feet moving, maybe kicks, but you don't stand still when you're standing still. Either your hands, head, or feet are always moving, right? And Alan, I tell you, man, that's just such good advice, because you see people shadow boxing and it's not, you just know it's not helping their fighting because you're not seeing all elements. People that really know how to work a heavy bag, we're going to cover this, and really know how to shadow box, it should look like there's somebody in front of them fighting them. All elements of fighting will be in there: blocks, counters, head movement. And remember that 1-2-1, I'm not saying don't throw your head off the center line, but there's certain things that are deliberate. That's a deliberate move. If that's the only way you know how to throw a right hand, you're predictable and you're going to get beat. You cannot be predictable, right? Fighting is a broken rhythm, not just rhythmic, because standing still and taking off, people see that. I see people doing like this when they're boxing. That's a rhythm. The second you change to do something, that break in the rhythm tells them you're coming. Instead, it needs to be in a little bit of a broken rhythm so they never see something coming. We cover broken rhythms. These are probably terms people have never heard. So when we say this is jam-packed with info, I don't even know what else we could add. You'd have to make something up.
Well, if you think this video had a lot of information and you have no idea what's on the other side. So we'd love to have you there, guys. But look, it's not all about that. We are continuing to produce regular content here for free on the channel. The best advice, my wife runs an online fitness program, and something that she always tells people is watching the tape is not the workout. That is just watching the tape. You have to actually get up and practice. So my advice to you, whether you want to work with us directly in our Fighters College program by joining the channel here, or if you're just going to follow the videos that we're putting out, make sure that you are practicing it, right? You got to get up and do it until you have mastered it or got it down, and then progress and evolve. And there's there is a format. We've been asked where we're located. So we do this online, and then I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. So I do training here. Dave's in Richmond, Virginia, and he does training there. And then we can be brought on location for seminars as well. We can discuss that. If you've got a school, you want to implement something like flow, which is great for teaching fighters. It's great if you're doing a serious fitness program, or if you want to do kickboxing, but you want it to be legit. We can talk to you about all that stuff. But wait,
and also too, Alan, we're putting together, we're going to call it this Coach's Corner, and we have 50 things, 50 elements that if you want to be a great coach, you really need to know these 50 things, right? Some of it you will have heard, a lot of it you won't, and it covers every aspect from mind, body, spirit, nutrition, training, sparring, how to match make, running a corner, everything. So we really wanted to make this so, we always were having to hunt, and we still do that, right? I'm still looking at stuff. We wanted to deliver something where, all right, just take it step by step, and you can go from beginner to pro to a great coach to a new coach. Great coaches started off but they didn't have these tools. We are sharing them with you, and I assure you, you will never be sorry. And because we're excited to share it with you too.
Well, as you can tell, it's fun. It's not. This isn't work to us. This is quite enjoyable. We love doing it. We like sharing the information. We like the questions, and we love the feedback from you guys as well. So I apologize if the title of the video, it was not clickbait. We did intend on getting it done in an hour, but we've gone 90 minutes, and we will schedule another one so that we can cover some more information. But again, I'm Alan Branch. This is David Dise. The program is here on the channel. It's Glove Up.
And we'd love to teach you whatever you want. Send us some feedback. Hey, would you cover this? Happy to do it.
We'll if we don't know it, we'll either learn it or find someone who does. So the program that we put together, it's called Fighters College, and it's a turnkey training program. It's also a certification for coaches, and it basically teaches them how to teach striking from the very ground up in a professional way, where you actually sound, the how and the why of what you're doing. That's our program. But man, if you're just here on the channel, we appreciate you watching. Glad you're here. Do us a favor. Go through all the videos, watch them, comment on them, let us know what you like, and we'll produce more based on the things that you need. Anything else you want to add in there, Dave?
Nope, just always keep those elbows in, hands up, chin down.
And thank God every day, guys, that you have the strength to do one more round. We'll see you next time.
Amen.